What if I told you that somewhere behind the Vatican stone walls, beyond the view of cameras and the reach of microphones, a meeting took place so secret, so sacred that it could reshape everything we think we know about the Catholic Church? No grand ceremonies. No regal processions. Just two men, face to face. Pope Leo XIV, the first American pope in history, and Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, the humble, tearful servant from the Philippines many believed was destined to become pope. This wasn't a meeting of protocol. It was a meeting of destiny. In a world ruled by images and spectacle, the fact that this encounter took place in silence, without witnesses or headlines, is perhaps its most powerful statement. For behind the hush of the Apostolic Palace's locked doors, a revelation was shared, one that could realign the direction of the Church, reawaken the hearts of its people, and challenge centuries of tradition. You won't find this story on Vatican press releases. You won't hear it in official homilies. But you're about to hear it now. Because this story matters not just for Catholics, but for anyone searching for light in the darkness. Before he was Pope Leo XIV, he was Robert Francis Prevost, a Chicago-born priest molded not by Vatican politics, but by the streets of Peru. Raised in a working-class family, his earliest teachings in compassion didn't come from lecture halls or theological councils, but from watching his parents love one another quietly and faithfully. That foundation would lead him to the Augustinian order, where he served the poor with such devotion that they didn't see him as a foreigner or a preacher, they called him hermano, brother. If you love God and want to grow in faith, grab my book Bible Decoded on Amazon. Link below. Let it change your life. His papacy wasn't born of ambition. It was born of service. So when white smoke billowed above St. Peter's Square announcing his election, many wondered, would he change everything? Would he confront scandal with thunder and lightning? Instead, he met the moment with silence and stillness. He chose humility over headlines. He listened before speaking. And the world listened back. By his side, often unseen by the cameras but deeply present in spirit, stood Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. The man from Manila, shaped by a family steeped in prayer and hardship, had also walked the path of service over status. Known for his emotional homilies and the tears he shed for the suffering, Tagle didn't command through fear or formality. He inspired through empathy. He connected not by title, but by truth. When he led the Archdiocese of Manila, he didn't separate himself from his flock. He opened his door. He walked through slums, prayed in hospitals, and listened at kitchen tables. When he was called to the Vatican, his mission only deepened. As head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, he carried the message of mercy across continents, touching lives in places many had forgotten. So when Pope Leo and Cardinal Tagle met alone in the Apostolic Palace, it wasn't a political negotiation. It was a spiritual communion. They spoke not just as churchmen, but as shepherds burdened with the weight of 1 billion souls. What they discussed in that room, though shrouded in secrecy, is whispered now through actions and silent shifts. It was a vision, a prophetic calling, to prepare the Church for a storm not yet seen, a crisis not of persecution from outside, but of fracture from within. In that sacred dialogue, Pope Leo shared something deeply personal. Not a strategy, not a decree, but a message he believed was divinely revealed during long nights of prayer. A warning, a vision, a sacred charge. It spoke of a coming time when the faith of many would falter. Not because of threats from the world, but because the Church had forgotten how to weep with those who weep, how to walk with the wounded, how to serve without seeking status. And with that vision, he asked Tagle to be his sentinel. Not a commander, but a witness, a guardian of the Church's soul. Tagle accepted. Not with applause, but with tears. From that day on, a quiet transformation began. Across the globe, bishops began organizing prayer circles and listening sessions. Seminaries started teaching empathy before exegesis. Priests were encouraged not to command from the pulpit but to listen in confessionals. A new tone emerged, not of triumphalism, but tenderness. And slowly, the Church began to remember its roots. But this change wasn't without resistance. Many within the Vatican were unnerved. Power resists humility. Prestige bristles at presence. Whispers grew in Vatican hallways. Was the Pope too passive? Was Tagle wielding too much influence without title? Yet Leo and Tagle pressed forward, not with proclamations, but with presence. They visited refugee camps, embraced children orphaned by war, comforted the sick in forgotten hospitals. They didn't need to speak loudly. Their compassion thundered louder than any decree. And then came the most astonishing part of their journey. In a document known only to a few within the papal household, Pope Leo outlined a vision for a decentralized church. A church where mercy was the currency of leadership. Where dioceses had the freedom to innovate pastoral care according to their people's needs. Where women had voices at the highest levels of spiritual discernment. Where tradition was honored but not idolized. This wasn't rebellion. This was resurrection. Tagle was tasked with carrying this vision, like a torch, to the corners of the world. And he has done so faithfully, quietly, persistently. In parishes and prayer groups, this message spreads: the Church is not a fortress. It is a family. The future of Catholicism will not be built on grand basilicas or doctrinal wars. It will rise from hospital beds, soup kitchens, and the homes of single mothers whispering prayers at midnight. So now we return to that meeting. That secret, sacred encounter that set all of this in motion. We may never know every word spoken between Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle that day. But we know its fruit. We see its echo in every act of mercy, every tear shed for a stranger. Every moment of leadership that chooses humility over hierarchy. And here's the truth that might shake you. This isn't just their story. It's yours. Because if the Church is truly becoming what they dream it to be, a place of radical compassion, of courageous listening, of holy humility, then it requires you. Your prayer. Your presence. Your pain and your hope. So I ask you now, what will you do with this vision? Will you keep watching from the sidelines, or will you join the quiet revolution? Will you dare to lead in your own way, with mercy, with presence, with faith? Thank you for watching. If this message has stirred something in your soul, don't let it stop here. Share this video. Subscribe to this channel for more stories of faith, hope, and transformation. And in the comments, leave one word that speaks to your heart, one word that reminds you what kind of world we could build. If we just listened. One word. That's all it takes to begin. Because sometimes, the most powerful revolutions begin not with a roar, but with a whisper. If you love God and want to grow in faith, grab my book Bible Decoded on Amazon. Link below. Let it change your life. If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.